They say a man's home is his castle, but try telling that to an HOA Karen with too much free time and a clipboard. It started with a cone, a single bright orange cone. I didn't think much of it at first. I figured maybe someone was having work done nearby. But when I came back from the grocery store that afternoon, there were 3 cones, right across my private driveway. And in the middle, duct-taped to a traffic sign, was a sheet of paper that read, "Temporary HOA no parking zone. Violators will be fined." The kicker? The cones weren't in front of the street or a shared curb. They were placed right in front of my own garage. I sat there in my truck for a second, jaw clenched, trying to process what kind of insanity I was looking at. And then I saw her. Karen Galloway, HOA president, late 50s, pearl earrings and a face that looked like it hadn't smiled in 20 years. She stood across the cul-de-sac, arms folded, sunglasses on, smirking like she'd just won the war. I stepped out of the truck. "Karen," I called calmly, "what is this?" She didn't even flinch. "Driveway violations? Your home has been observed with multiple cars parked for extended periods. That's not allowed under Silver Pine Residential HOA Code Section B4. I blinked. "Karen, that's my driveway. You can't fine me for parking in my own space. The HOA has authority over all visible parking areas. Your driveway is within public view. Section B4 applies." I took a deep breath. "I've lived here for 6 years. No one has ever cited that rule." She shrugged. "I'm simply enforcing the code. Don't take it personally." But I did. Because this wasn't about rules, it was personal. Ever since she became HOA president last year, Karen had made me a target. First, it was my front porch light being too bright. Then it was yard overgrowth, which was literally a rose bush. And now, she was blocking me from my own home. But here's the thing about me. I don't shout. I don't throw punches. I build. So while she thought she was playing games with parking tickets and cones, I was already planning something bigger. The next morning, I took photos of the cones, dated them, collected every bogus citation she ever handed me. Then I did something Karen didn't see coming. I submitted plans to the city for a raised rooftop deck over my garage. See, Karen wanted to block my driveway? Fine, I'd stop using it altogether. Instead, I was going up. The idea was crazy. Even my buddy Drew, a contractor, said, "You serious, man? Turning your garage roof into a private lounge?" "Dead serious," I said. "Just because of Karen?" "Especially because of Karen." And the city? They approved it. Turns out, as long as the structure didn't exceed height limits and stayed within property lines, they didn't care. In fact, they liked the idea of converting unused vertical space. Karen, on the other hand, lost it. She marched down the street in full meltdown mode the second the first wooden beam went up. "You don't have permission," she screeched. I stayed cool. "Don't need it, Karen. City approved it. And last I checked, this was still my property. This is a residential neighborhood, not a nightclub." I grinned. "Who said anything about clubs? I'm just tired of your cones. Figured I'd enjoy the view instead." She stormed off that day, muttering legal threats. And over the next 2 weeks, she watched as her little war zone transformed into something out of a lifestyle magazine. We installed a rooftop deck with composite wood floors, sleek railings, ambient lighting, and a canopy for shade. I even added a minibar and a small sound system. By the time it was finished, the place looked like a luxury resort space. Every evening, I'd sit up there with a drink, feet up, music playing, looking red. It over the cones she still hadn't removed. And that's when Karen escalated. She called the cops. The cops showed up just after sunset, red and blue lights swirling against the wood panels of my brand new rooftop deck. I had just poured myself a drink, nothing fancy, just bourbon over ice, and was settling into the cushioned lounge chair when I heard them pull in. I stood, calmly descended the spiral stairs we'd installed on the side of the garage, and walked up to meet them in the driveway. Karen stood beside them, arms crossed tight, lips pursed like she was sucking lemons. She didn't even wait for the officers to speak. He built an unauthorized structure and he's disturbing the peace. There's music playing every night, and there are lights, shining after dark. It's a violation of code. The officer held up a hand, cutting her off gently. He turned to me. Sir, we received a complaint about noise and unapproved construction. I nodded. Sure, let me show you. I brought them around to the side of the garage where the city permit was clearly posted on a mounted board. Then I walked them through the construction, the deck, the lighting, the low-volume sound system, even the automatic shut-off timer set for 9:30 p.m. sharp. One officer looked impressed. You did all this yourself? With my contractor friend, yeah. Followed all the rules. You're welcome to check the decibel meter too. It's not louder than a conversation. The other officer nodded. Looks like everything's in order. We appreciate your cooperation. Karen was fuming. You can't just let him turn his house into a rooftop bar. This is a neighborhood, not a resort. The officer turned to her with professional patience. Ma'am, he hasn't broken any laws. Everything appears permitted and within code. If you have further concerns, it's a civil matter. Karen didn't even say goodbye. She spun on her heel and marched off down the street, rage practically bouncing off her like waves. I stood there for a second, then turned to the officers and offered them a smile. You guys want to come up for a look? Cold soda on the deck? One of them chuckled. Not allowed on duty, but nice setup, man. I went back up, heart pounding but satisfied. She tried. She really tried. But she lost. And that's when I decided it was time to go all in. The next weekend, I hosted a neighborhood appreciation night. No invites, no flyers, just one big open deck. Bring your own drink sign at the edge of my lawn. Word spread fast. By sunset, people were showing up with folding chairs, coolers, even a portable grill. I had music playing low, tiki lights flickering, and a cooler full of sodas. Families came. Teenagers brought lawn games. Even Mr. Raymond from 2 doors down, who hadn't left his house in months, wandered over with a six-pack and a grin. Karen stood across the street, staring in horror, watching her coned-off war zone turn into the hottest hangout in the entire neighborhood. She made a few angry phone calls, paced her yard like a caged animal, and eventually stormed inside. The HOA board? They showed up too. Not to enforce anything, just to see what the buzz was about. And guess what? They loved it. One of the members even pulled me aside and said, honestly, this is the first time the community's felt like a community. And that's when Karen made her final mistake. At the next HOA meeting, she tried to push an emergency motion to ban rooftop structures visible from street level. She claimed it was lowering property values, causing disruptions, and encouraging non-residential behavior. But it backfired hard. Multiple neighbors stood up and voiced support for the deck. They said it brought the community together, that Karen was the one causing division. Someone even brought up the cones, said she was using HOA power like a weapon. It all unraveled from there. A vote was called, not just on the motion, but on her presidency. The board removed her. Just like that. She walked out of the clubhouse that night pale, silent, and defeated, the same way she used to walk down my driveway like she owned it. And me? I stood on my deck later that evening, watching the stars blink into the sky, music soft in the background, and neighbors chatting below. My driveway was still technically blocked. The cones? I left them there. But now they didn't matter. Because what Karen tried to use to shut me down, I turned into something better, something bigger, a symbol of how you don't have to scream, don't have to fight dirty. Sometimes you just build, you rise above, you turn what they thought would bury you into a platform they can't reach. So now, every time I sit up there, drink in hand, I look out over the neighborhood and smile. Not because I won, but because I didn't let her stop me from living.